Hello, this is Kali J.N.S. and today we are talking about a very, very important topic for the Black American regarding reparations and their justice claim. And we're going to be covering more so of an outlook for the claim. So by that I mean we'll be diving deep into 3 specific slave trades that affected the Black American, not just the one that mainstream narrative want to push on you, that the government wants you to say, but we're going to dive deep into what affected the Black American and regarding the American institution of slavery, because I want to make the case that reparations should start with American slavery, not the conditions under which the slavery occurred, because it's so intricate and multifaceted, meaning that there were 3 slave trades that the Black American was traded in, and we have the proof, and that's what we're going to shed light to. Now, why are we doing such a thing? Because, Black American, you need to understand that there are reparations task force popping up all over the United States. It's everywhere, not just in California, and we've seen the outcome. Very less than stellar outcome, might I add. Very disappointed. We've seen the outcome of what happened with the task force reparations in California. And many of us were kind of looking like, you know, as far as like some of the conclusion of them pretty much not even giving a number for the direct cash payment and saying that it's up to the legislators now. And one of the reasons why I want to really drill in your head, Black American, that you need to start these claims at the American institution of slavery, because this is something that would need to be proven legally. This is something that you really need to kind of have your shit in order when you go argue your debt, which is due to you. Okay? They're not going to just willingly give us this money just because we said we came from Africa on a boat. These motherfuckers you're going to have to prove this shit. Okay? So that's why we can prove American slavery. Okay? Now, the conditions under which it occurred, whether you came from the Indian slave trade, transatlantic slave trade, or Pacific slave trade, or even where they was trading people from East Asia. We're going to get about East Asia as well today. Many of you Black Americans were running around here saying, oh, I found out I got an East Asian in my bloodline. How did that get in there? How did I get East Indian in there? We talking about the East India from India. Or what was called El Bharat or Hindustan originally. It's Black Americans, and I'm one of them. It's Black Americans with that admixture in their bloodline that's been here since the 1700s and shit, and they kind of confused. Where you're going to find out that yes, there were boats. Yes, there were boats from India with dark skin. They labeled them Negro too and brought them over here as slaves. Sure is. And we're going to go deep into the history of that and bring some newspapers out and wake that history up. So why are we doing such a thing? Once again, you need to understand that if you don't start these claims at the institution of American slavery, you're going wrong, because that's what I don't appreciate about the California Reparations Task Force. And yeah, I'm saying it. I kept my mouth shut because I was like, you know what? I want to stay on code and I want to support what's good for the Black American. And if you know, but I saw a lot of shenanigans. I saw a lot of fuckery, and I kept my mouth shut. But I for the future references, since that concluded, and we seen how AMOS BROWN, how he went. Going to fucking Ghana and Kamala and them, when instead of, you know, focusing on our reparations claim, which is very important to us. Now I know that these boule niggas, or those who don't come from the grassroots, I don't think they really care, because that showed me that he couldn't have really cared. Why would you take your ass somewhere in Africa when the moment that we've been waiting for was to figure out about this reparations, what was going to happen, and your ass is not even there for the town hall meetings or anything. You're going in Africa. So that's a problem. That's a problem for us. That's really like, we know about this racial wealth gap, and we know about the disparities, and we really want something done. Our people are suffering, and we're tired of this suffering. So we get it. A lot of people don't care or whatever, but like for somebody that's passionate about this, I've been talking about reparations on record for 2 years. When I first came out talking about reparations, I sounded crazy. I had to remove all of my YouTube videos off my old channel talking about reparations because I pretty much just was, I'm not an economist, so I was just talking crazy. I was talking about special field order and bringing in Africa, doing all this stuff. It just was, to me, I just was like, I need to get more research. And now that I have more knowledge on it, I had to take all that stuff down and pretty much just, talk about it from a more nuanced point of view with more knowledge in my head versus when I first came out. So that's why you don't see a lot of those old videos. But I'm pretty sure somebody could find something about my old stuff about reparations on there from 2020 and 2019. But I hope they don't. I really do hope you don't. And if you do, just know that my thoughts have drastically changed. It was always a cash payment in there, but the cash payment was way too low. It was just some fuckery. I'm not gonna hold you. I just didn't even know I just thought that you would do the calculation from the special field orders and that's it, and I didn't know how to do a labor calculation. Pretty much I just threw anything out there based off of what would today's version of a mule and a 40 acres would look like, and how do you split up 40 acres amongst 40 million people, and that means we only get like 1,300 square feet a piece for land. It was a mess, so reparations is very important to me. So the California Reparations Task Force, what they did, what turned a lot of Black Americans off, whether they want to believe it or not, is starting that claim with the transatlantic slave trade. They hedge their whole argument on the transatlantic slave trade instead of on American slavery. Why would you do that? It was this weird proxy intellectual war on the out view of the world based off of those who say they're indigenous and those who say they're from Africa. And that's pretty much what this was all about. And I find that very incredulous. I find that very, very incredulous to do with something so serious instead of taking a very objective approach to shit. And when you take an objective approach, you have to really assess the nature of what happened during American chattel slavery. There were absolutely 3 slave trades that happened here. It wasn't just boats that came from Africa. So why would you hedge an argument for reparations on Africa when American government, American institution had slavery, and you went to different countries to get the slaves? And we're going to talk about that. So Black American, I want you to know that when you're doing your genealogy and you're seeing different admixtures, or even if you do the DNA thing, which I don't agree with, but whatever, and you're seeing that, okay, I got East Asian, I got all this shit. What the hell did this come from? I'm finding out I've got some markers from South America. How the hell did that get in here? What is this shit about Bolivia and all this stuff in my DNA? And I'm a Black American. I've been here since the 1700s because boats came from different places. There was 3 slave trades here, and all reparations claims, they either need to talk about all 3 slave trades if they want to go that route, or they just need to cut the conditions under which the slavery occurred and talk only about American slavery. American slavery, that's it. We don't need to talk about, the victim group that came from Africa and all this stuff. When Black Americans are admixed, for one, many of them are. It doesn't matter. When they're doing their genealogy, they can prove this. They're not all just Indian. Some of them are. They're not all just African. Maybe a couple of them would be. They're not all just white. They're not all just one thing. They have different mixtures. Most of us do. Myself, I speak for myself. But even the ones that with the indigenous background, they may claim that they may come to the forefront and say that they're Indian because that's what they feel comfortable with. But when you ask them, did they find European and other stuff, they will tell you they found some Europeans and stuff in their bloodline. So when we say that Black Americans are admixed, we mean that in the very literal sense with documented records that can prove that. So I want to get that out the way. But again, my problem with what they did in California was hedging that whole argument, the whole claim on some shit from Africa, not take into account that there are 3 slave trades that the Black American was traded in, and particularly even in California. I know that and then another thing that didn't make sense to me is like you're hedging the claim on the transatlantic slave trade, but then talking about the victim group would be those who suffered housing disparities in California. Black Americans, it's lineage based, but it's still supposed to go for different stuff outside of slavery. So it was like, why didn't you just start to claim at American slavery in the first place? So in order for future references, in order to tighten this shit up throughout the country, for any Black American that may be trying to get on a task force somewhere, or maybe wanting to get into the reparations movement, reparations fight, or where they want to start this claim from, or anybody that want to do a tort claim about this shit, look, understand, and when you look at these documents I'm going to show you, understand that there were 3 slave trades: the Pacific slave trade, Transatlantic slave trade, Indian slave trade, and yes, they were going to other places like Australia. We got shit that they went to Australia to get slaves. We got evidence they went to East Asia. So you got to start it at American slavery only. You can't just get hung up on a transatlantic slave trade when 3% of that slave trade came to North America. And I don't know if people is into politics where people getting kind of ushered in to go with a certain narrative and they just going along with it and they think that's the safest way to get money from the U.S. government. I don't know what that's about. But with me, I think objectively about this. I'm thinking very objectively. I'm thinking what includes all Black Americans that have been here and suffered for the last 500 years. What includes all of us? The claim of American slavery. Starting the claim at American slavery. Not starting it from 5,000 miles away from transatlantic slave trade, when you don't even have none of them boats records to even show that you came off that boat today. You don't have the records for none of the boats. Shit, the ones in East Asia are the ones more documented than the one in Africa. So what are you doing? You need to start it at American slavery. All 3 slave trades. You don't need to talk about the intricacies of none of them unless you want to. But I want to give you some evidence on it, Black American, so that when people try to argue down with this African shit, you can say, look, no, our people, we have a multifaceted history. There were 3 slave trades in America. We really don't even, we are new people now. We're an amalgamated group of people, and we really don't give a shit what the conditions were. We just know that we got enslaved in America, and America needs to pay for what they have done. They need to pay for what they have done and what they continue to do. That's all you need to know. You don't need to be somewhere 5,000 miles away in Africa talking about some transatlantic slave shit. And that's what I really didn't like about that reparations task force in California, how everything was talking about that. And I'm like, we got records from Library of Congress, from Yale University, Harvard, any of these prominent universities that y'all think is so credible, whatever. We got all of them records from different boats from different countries that were sold. We got all these records from different slave trades that affected the Black American. Okay? Do not get caught in the weeds over historical narratives. We focus solely on Black American injuries and harms. The focus of all future claims, Black American. I hope we do this on a federal level, but it looks like, we see stuff going on state levels in different states. I guess that's cool, if especially when we do a federal one, you need to start that claim at the institution of slavery in America. And if they don't do it, Black American, you better call it out. You better call it out and bring these documents. Hit me up and say, what's those resources? Where'd you get those resources from? I will give them to you, and you need to scream like hell and be like, no, y'all not about to sit up here and turn me into no motherfucking African slave. We are Black Americans. We done been there and done that. We were traded in 3 different slave trades. Our genealogy can prove that. We got genealogy records. We got historical data. We have evidence to prove that we have been traded in different slave trades from different countries. That was not just Africa. And we need to start this claim at American slavery only. That's what we need to focus on, and that's what's going to include us all. Could you imagine the amount of infighting that would have been stopped? See, I'm getting worked up. The amount of fucking infighting, and you guys know for years I've been hating that infighting. You can go back with the Conversation for Black American videos that I got up when I was begging you guys, saying I don't want to fight. I don't hate the fighting. I hate the infighting. I hate it. And the reason why that infighting started, and I'm gonna keep it a buck. I ain't gonna say no names. The motherfuckers wanted to fight so bad, them freedmans, and it wasn't all of them. But them freedmans wanted to fight so bad against the Black Indigenous. They wanted, it's like they was obsessed with fighting us. And we're like, a lot of us was just like, yo, okay, cool. Like, we should be supporting one another and loving on one another because we the same people. We may got different ideologies about certain things and even narratives of history based off our genealogy or whatever, but we are one people. And just like how I gotta respect you, you have to respect me. But the freedmans, they really wanted to monopolize the narrative on what happened to the Black American. So they got hung up on that transatlantic slave trade shit and just didn't even care about the other slave trades that we were focused on. And a lot of us were looking like, you know, well, we got our genealogy records, so a lot of us wouldn't bulge on going along with that narrative. Yes, we recognize that there was a transatlantic slave trade. Nobody is saying that that's not true. Nobody is saying that that's not true. We're saying that the claim should start at American slavery, which would include us all. If you would have just said American slavery, I would guarantee you every single last Black American would have just been on board, because it would have been like, shit, yeah, my family, we found out we came from specific slave trade, but you know, it's the American slave trade, so who gives a fuck? But when you sat up there and put it transatlantic slave trade, and people are looking like, I don't have no documents or no proof that I came from that boat. I don't have nothing to prove it. I have maybe a slave ledger in my family. I may have the story of a slave narrative that I done found of a great grandparent or something. I may got that, but I don't have nothing to prove to say that they went from that boat. I don't have anything. None of us really do. So the smart thing to do would be to start the claim at American chattel slavery. And again, it was not all freedmans. I love freedmans just like I love all of you guys. I told you guys I'm not going to treat you different. But some of those freedmans, you've been problematic. You've been cutting up. And that warrants some type of discipline action. You know, because to be honest, all this infighting, y'all love to fight. I don't get it. See, I'm about a utopia for the Black American. I'm about spreading love to the Black American. So when y'all do all that fighting, it really blows my mind. So a lot of people, they think I done jumped off the bandwagon because I've been obsessed with keeping us together. And that is true. So, and then it's so bad now where in the Black Indigenous, they cannot stand the freedmen. They absolutely hate you guys. And I'm like, I can't relate to that either. Because I'm ready to come together and move on. And they are not ready to do that. They are not ready to come together. They fucks with the FBAs. I will say that. They can get with the FBAs. But they will not bulge on fucking with them freedmans. They will not bulge. A little bit with ADOS. A little bit. You know, whereas me, I'm like, we all need to come together. I'm willing to forgive everybody who did something stupid. You know, as far as like this little infighting stuff, you know, as far as like the little nitpicking that we did, we got at each other, you know, and whatever, you think you African or you pretending or you this, you that. I'm ready to move on from past all of that. I really am. And I've been this way. It's not like you just all of a sudden thought of this agenda to get along, but where you started all this drama and now you want to get along. That ain't never been me. That ain't never been me. Motherfuckers always try to start some drama with me, and I always ignored it. I said, look, I'm a builder. I'm a master architect. I don't have time for y'all want to get in the weeds and fight about Britannians and Africans and all this shit. Look, you know, do you? But I did not like that infighting between us. I never liked it. I never liked that shit. Between FBA, between ADOS, between the freedmans, between the Black Indigenous. I never liked that shit. I never did. So yes, I am on record saying that. Yes, I want us to all come together. Yes, I'm ready to move forward. Yes, I'm ready to be one people. The Black Americans. I am. Now, certain groups are not there yet. And I've listened. I keep my ear to the streets, man. And I'm like, y'all done pissed off these Black Indigenous. I'm like, damn, y'all pissed them off. Because they are not bulging. And they looking at me like, oh, you're trying to be cool with the freedmans. I already told everybody that I'm loving them the same. That I'm going to love on them the same. As long as they're respecting me. And you come correct at me. We can be cool. I've always supported ADOS and freedmans and FBAs. as a Black Indigenous. I've had my little clique too, you know, and to be honest, my clique always included everybody from everywhere, not certain people, but like, yes, I had friends that were freedmen and FBA and ADOS and Black Indigenous. Yes, that's just real. But the friends that I had, they kind of are universal in the way that I think as well. They're the type that don't care either. They're the type that's like, look, as long as you Black American, you've been here, you shared my story like I share your story, and we got some similarities, even though we may have different genealogy stories, but we've been here forever, and we one people, okay, whatever. So the universal minds, we all kind of need to come together. If you're a universal mind, and far as when I say universal, I'm talking about Black American universal. As far as, okay, you see the bigger picture here. You don't want to be just gang banging on ADOS, gang banging on FBA, gang banging with Freedmans, gang banging with the Black Indigenous. You really like, look, how can we come together to get shit done? How can we stick as one and still respect one another? If you want to call yourself whatever you want to call yourself, that's fine, but we need to stick together. We need to move as a unit, and we need to protect one another. It needs to be like a motherfucking secret society around here where like you can't harm none of us. You can't do shit. We come to as a united front. Any one of us go down, we got their back. We with each other. We protect one another. We love one another. That's what I want for the Black American. Yes, I do. I've been saying that, and that's where I'm standing. It hasn't changed. It's not going to change with me because I see a bigger picture here. My mind is universal in that sense. I'm like, look, all this infighting is causing drama. Now the reparations claim is all fucked up. People going back and forth ravenously about the reparations shit. I've watched it in real time. The Black Indigenous tearing an asshole into the Freedmans. The Freedmans tearing the asshole into the Black Indigenous. Going back and forth, blocking each other. Locking each other out of the rooms. Blocking each other out of the conversations. Trying to blackball motherfuckers. It just is ridiculous. It got so crazy to me. And that shit spilled all out into the California Reparations Task Force meetings itself. Yes, I was quiet about everything, but I seen everything. I'm like, are you kidding me? People going on and calling people out by name, calling Freedmans out during a reparations claim by name, bringing up shit from Twitter Spaces. And look, I'm not judgmental of it because this shit is real. Like, do I agree that should have been brought up maybe in that space and time? No, but I understand the emotions. I understand that we're dealing with grassroots. This is another thing that y'all. This is another factor. You got Black Boule and Black American niggas, and then you got grassroots niggas, and they add it too. They going at it too because I see it psychologically. I see two different camps of Black Americans, not just from what we identify as, but our class, our literal socioeconomic statuses. And class, and maybe class is not the right word, because no, I'm going to take class out of that. Pedigree. And that's a bit different because that kind of transcends class in a bit, because that goes into other aspects of your social capital that's besides class. But yes, we talking about grassroots, and so I get it. I get where this shit done spilled from Twitter Spaces all into the political arena, all right into the damn Reparations Task Force meeting, because you're dealing with something that's very, very emotional to our people. That y'all don't realize, like, these grassroots, we want our money, man. I don't care what nobody say. Like, this shit, what we went through, this shit was so traumatic for a lot of us growing up in Black America, and understanding. And then the more educated you become on certain levels of stratification in terms of an inequality, the inequality that the Black American goes through is so motherfucking painful. That shit just burns a chap in your ass. And people from Buffalo, New York, we tend to be conscious anyways. A lot of people don't want to give us credit, but well, I got some proof that there were some people giving us credit. That conscious community shit that you see in New York City and Harlem, Buffalo had a lot to do with that. Buffalo, New York, like, Buffalo, people in Buffalo, New York, we be conscious, like, on a level. I was raised a certain way. Like, we were, like, seriously. So we kind of like, you know, we are emotionally attached to this reparation shit. We are emotionally attached to this shit based off our living experiences, what we witness. Buffalo, New York is very stratified, very racist, very stratified among race. Extremely different than other, like say like a New York City. Now racism is in New York City for sure. I lived in New York City, but it is stratification there too on heavy levels. But it's a bit different. And then of course you go to Georgia. I stayed in Atlanta. That was a lot. That just opened my eyes. I said, damn, black people live like this in Georgia? Are you kidding me? I'll never go back to Buffalo. Which is ironic because I did end up going back. But yeah, Buffalo, the average nigga in Buffalo, you're gonna see us be a little more radical than maybe other people, you know, in other parts of the United States, because we go through some shit here, man. We do, and you know, we see motherfuckers that's not from the grassroots that's taking money from George Soros, taking money from Rockefeller Foundation, taking money from MacArthur Foundation. Okay, you need that for your activism, whatever. Okay, why George Soros though, really? But then that's not grassroots. You're not grassroots. You're corporate owned. They can cause mission drift. They can control your agenda and your narrative. And I really suspect that's what the fuck happened with some of them, these quote unquote these organizations, these nonprofit reparations organizations. I really suspect that's what the fuck happened. When you start taking a goddamn money, then they can control your ass. Like, you need to have some stipulations on, like, look, you cannot control our narrative. This is free. If you want to fund this just justice or whatever, and there's people that really they got their heart in the right spot, regardless of what kind of institution it may come from, that may really want to help. You got to have something in writing that they cannot control no narratives and nothing. I know that shit is all over my head and it's above my pay grade, so I don't even know how it all work out. I don't. But you know, when we seen all this shit about, okay, the George Soros is funding these organizations and stuff, you got people from the grassroots that's like, what the fuck is that about? Because that's what Black Lives Matters, you know, they got caught up with that organization shit too, with that $90 million. So now you see like these nonprofit organizations that was writing legislation that was pushing that African American shit and pushing that transatlantic slave trade shit. Now you see like, I sense an agenda. I sense some more other shit going on. Now it's conspiracies. Now people all on the internet talking about these different foundations and liberation ventures and all this shit. And I'm looking like, damn, you know, I bet none of that would have happened if you just would have started the institution. Let me rephrase that. I bet none of that would have happened had your ass just put the reparations claim in America and started at American slavery. But no, you wanted to put African jackets on all of us, call us ignorant, call us stupid, call us pretending, call us trying to say we trying to be we trying to cosplay being black when we know what the fuck? I mean, it just got crazy. I'm like, what? And just putting words in people's mouths, lying on people. And then to be honest, I did see lies on both sides. I did see some disturbing stuff on both sides. I'm not gonna lie. I saw Black Indigenous doing disturbing things. I saw the Freedmans doing disturbing things. I did. FBA, I ain't really see him doing nothing crazy. I ain't gonna hold you. I see one character doing something crazy. I see one person that really to me, I think they're going to end up getting their comeuppance. I'm not going to say too much about that person, but they really working my nerves, because you could tell they're just trying to get attention and make a name for themselves, but they don't have anything of substance that they bring into the community, none whatsoever. But I haven't really seen no FBAs kind of been jumping out the window. They kind of just been chilling. Trying to think, ADOS, they're very political to me. Never had really much problems with them. I remember when ADOS members were leaving and turning into freedmen. I was there in the exception of that. I didn't know what the fuck was going on, because I just was a nigga that just talked about reparations. I'm like, okay, what's reparations? Let's go with, I'm learning from them. And I didn't know it was all this infighting in the background and ADOS and Freedmans were fighting, or they had this little in-house thing. I had no idea. I remember them leaving from ADOS and just saying they were freedmen and coming up with freedmen and telling us about freedmen history and all that. I remember all that. 2 years ago. Sure do. I just didn't put two and two together that there was like this huge fallout. It didn't occur to me. And I remember even hearing some freedmen say, yeah, I fell out with Yvette, or Tone Talks they did that. And it just went over my head because I just didn't care. Like, I just didn't think like, okay, I guess you guys fell out and now I approached them as an individual. That's what it was. I looked at them as an individual. So I didn't realize that there was something bigger going on with the ADOS stuff and the Freedman stuff and what was being born out of that. I just didn't really pay attention to it. Now that I'm looking back, I'm like, yo, they was really, that was some serious shit. Like, I'm like, damn. And then to be all in the mix of that, because I remember hanging with ADOS and Freedmans and on them clubhouse spaces for hours talking about reparations for hours. And everybody knew, everybody knew that I was not hiding my indigenous background. I just said I was Black American. I didn't claim ADOS or Freedman. I'm just like, I'm a Black American. I care about reparations. I've been in this country for a long time. I'm admixed. My mom is Indian. Nobody really gave me any pushback for that for the most part. Nobody. And then I went to go do my genealogy with the Indians, the Black Indians. I would just go back and forth and do my genealogy with the Black Indigenous because they were teaching genealogy and American history. So I went to go learn American history and Indigenous studies from them, as well as genealogy. Then I went back to the ADOS and Freedmans to go learn about reparations. That's in politics, because that's what it was. Like, the Freedmans and the ADOS was covering reparations in politics. That's just a fact. Believe it or not. And then I'm saying this as a sociologist, so now I'm just going to get into someone that kind of is looking at this from an ethnographer point of view. So then you have the FBAs. The FBAs are concerned with cultural collation. They're concerned with gatekeeping culture, identity. The Indigenous are concerned with it as well, but they're focused more on genealogy. They're focused on the genealogy and American history itself. And then you have a faction within the Black Indigenous where you got an extremist, which I tend to be on, where we are very much extreme about gatekeeping Black American culture. Now, that's a segment of Black Indigenous. They tend to get more along with FBAs, believe it or not. And we are very extreme in preventing ethnocide. We believe in gatekeeping Black American culture. We believe in protecting Black Americans. We are kind of looked at, as being the extremists, because we don't want anybody trying to come into our identity, into our ethnicity, into our culture. And that's how we are. The ADOS are not as radical like that. The Freedmans are not as radical like that. That tends to be some FBAs and a small group of Black Indigenous, because even the Black Indigenous, some of them do not even like being called Black. Some of them, they come from our background and our experiences, but they go along with their tribes and they care about genealogy and American history, and they don't really care so much about like the gatekeeping stuff. Like, it's not as important to them. But there's one group, and to be honest, I have to say that ideologically, I understand that extremism when it comes to gatekeeping Black American culture. Absolutely. And that's why ideologically I understand FBAs and them Black Indigenous the most. Now, I respect how organized the Freedmen are. I really respect, I admire how organized the motherfuckers are. I admire that. I admire how political ADOS is, how their database, how they're objective based. I admire that about them. So every single last one of you groups has something very special to bring to the table. You really do. That's why I say, we got to come together. This Black American shit, we gotta really get it together, because I sat in for 3 years, and I remember when ADOS came out, and I would be at. You can ask my mom. Mom was like, it's some stuff called ADOS, and it's a website. I remember the website. I remember looking that shit up because I had listened to it from Tariq Nasheed because he was talking about it. And I said, well, what's that shit? Because, to be honest, I've been listening, to Tariq Nasheed since I was 19 years old. So when he started talking about that, I said, okay, what the hell is that about? Let me go. And I was looking at the website. I was telling my mom, I was telling my friends. I was like, we got this ADOS, this delineation, this flat blackness is dangerous. You know, it was just like whatever. So then I did not agree with the vote down ballot stuff. I did not. That's where they lost me. To be honest, that's where they lost me. When they went to that vote down Democrat ballot, that's when I was just like, huh? We supposed to be, you know, really, and it threw me off a bit. It did, and I just wrote with, to be honest, I jumped off of that and just wrote with the FBA because that was the divergence. When they had got into it over that conference shit, over him holding that conference, I remember thinking, okay, I don't agree with that vote down ballot Democrat stuff. I did not agree with that, and I went my separate. I kind of just did not really get more. I did not join any ADOS organizations or chapters because of that. Had things went differently though, I really did, you know, enjoy learning that research about reparations from them. I'm not going to take that away from somebody just because y'all are beefing and fighting or whatever. I will not take that away from them, that I was learning from them, you know. And then, you know, the Freedmans come out, you know, and they're organized. Well, they some of the most organized motherfuckers I ever met in my life. Now, I have to say, I haven't seen nothing like that. And then when you hang with the Black Indigenous are not as structured and organized like that. It's not a bad thing, that we're just not. We're not. I had to learn to be more organized from the Freedmans, you know. But us Black Indigenous, they call us wild Indians. We wild, we hot headed, we fiery as a motherfucker. We got a lot of fire in our souls. So, you know, we the warriors. We're like, where's our motherfucking reparations? Y'all gonna stop treating us like this? Why y'all steal our land? Why the fuck you do this to us? We're tired. We get up there and just cut it, you know, we like, look, we come with the chopper. We ready to scalp a motherfucker. We just ready to scalp a bitch. I ain't gonna hold you. That's what time we on. And we are ready to get out there and we fearless, and we really don't give a damn of what anybody got to do or gonna say or do to us. We just like pay the debt now. Pay what you owe. Change your racism towards this Black American. That's what we demand. Okay, so we're a little bit different, and again, there is a faction within the Black Indigenous. And again, I'm talking as an ethnographer, as someone who's a part of Black American culture, but from the mind of a researcher, this is all fascinating to me. This is completely amazing to me, and to see how each faction has something to bring to the table, how they have their gifts, how they have, I mean, it's just a fact. If I'm being objective, and I'm not trying to promote infighting, yes, each one of you have something positive to bring to the table. Yes, I'm saying it on record. FBAs, ADOS, Freedmans, and Black Indigenous, both sects, whether you're from the sect that promote the genealogy or the one that promotes the reparations, because there's one that do both, but there are different sects within the Black Indigenous. We all have something to bring to this table. We all are saying that we can trace back to the 1870 census. We are all saying that we were affected by a Reconstruction period, American chattel slavery, Jim Crow, that we have suffered. We are all saying that we are Black American, and we all have records that say Negro and colored in our family. We have records that say Black. We have records that say obviously white, obviously colored, whatever. We have it all. We are those people who share a lineage. We are those people who share a lineage, a kinship, effective kinship through history, through experience. So you should be getting along. So those of us that got the universal Black American mind, look, we got to link up, because what's happening is so much division. And I never was with that division. I never liked that shit. You never heard me say, oh, I'm Freedman. Oh, I'm ADOS. Oh, I'm FBA. And sometimes, and I'm going to say this on record too, because I know a lot of times with my tweets, it may come off like, okay, why did you use FBA in this sentence and then Black American another one? So that means you're FBA. No, FBA is 3 fucking letters. Black American and a tweet, it takes too long to write out. So sometimes when I'm saying FBA, I'm actually referring to everybody. I just did not have the letters to put Black American in the tweets. If I can call out everybody and say, and put Freedmans, ADOS, Negro, whatever. If I could write it all out, you'll see me write it all out. Most of the time, I'm just using Black American. Most of the time, I'm just using Black American. If I cannot fit Black American into a tweet or into a paper or into whatever little word count shit they got to do with a word count, I'll just put the 3 letters FBA. Because BA sounds, I don't know if everybody knows that BA stands for Black American. Maybe they do. But for me, it's like, okay, at least FBA, niggas know at least I'm talking about Black Americans, you know? So that's why you'll see, okay, you said FBA here, or you said American Freedman here, because I did like that status stuff that American Freedman was doing. I did like that. I thought it was clever. I didn't know if it could work. But I was open to learning, okay, if there is such a thing of changing the status in America in a political sense, perhaps that's something we can look into. I was open to it. So that's why I never really slammed Freedmans, because I'm like, you know what? That's kind of clever. That's kind of, if you can change a status of something and put yourself in a position of a different status than what we in now, which is at the bottom of the bottom caste, and they've used benign neglect policy against us and then labeled us a racial group from Africa. No, that shit is a problem. We need to fight that. But the thing is, once again, the infighting, problematic Freedmans wanting to start shit, personally started shit with me, blocking people and all types of shit, and just couldn't get out of the weeds. They just couldn't get out of the weeds, and that fucked it up. And that's why I was just like, I already knew they was gonna fuck their own shit up. I was like, they about to fuck up their own movement behind fucking with them Black Indigenous. I had already saw it. I said, because they can't focus. They went so hard trying to bash Black Americans who have indigenous leanings instead of focusing on that prize, and actually they could have united motherfuckers. They would have done so much better had they went in trying to unify versus pretendians, and they made their whole little clique around fighting against the Black Indigenous. And it wasn't all of them, but it was enough. It was enough where I'm telling you, the Black Indigenous do not, oh man, I said, they ain't ready to forgive. And I'm like, well, I'm ready to forgive. And I done been called pretendian and stupid and all types. And I know I ain't motherfucking stupid, but I've been called it by Freedmans. People say, oh, you this, you that. And I'm ready to move on, but only with universal Black Americans. You gotta be universal Black American. You gotta be universal Black American where you transcend all the infighting and you transcend labels and names. We know where we come from, and we got to connect with one another. But you got to be universal Black American. You can gang bang a little bit. You can. Okay, if you're a Freedman and ADOS and FBA, whatever, I don't care about that. But as long as you see, I want to come to the forefront and be with whoever is same agenda as me. Even though you may call yourself FBA, you may call yourself ADOS, whatever. We still one people. That's what I mean by universal Black American. Not taking your right to self-identify. You have a right to self-identify. My only thing is stop the infighting. I don't care what you call yourself. I don't care if you call yourself Pink Polka Dot from outer space. I don't give a shit if you call yourself Pink Polka. If a group of Black Americans come up right now and say we the Pink Polka Dots because we Black Americans, and we've been here since 1870. We were descendants of chattel slavery, and we believe that, we want to call ourselves the Pink Polka Dot people. I don't know why I personally, wouldn't get it, but I wouldn't care. Like, that's how transcendent my mind is about that. I don't care what you call yourself. Can we just get to work? Can we get the building? And that's where I get off. That's where I get all rock hard and where when it comes to motherfucking building some shit or something like that. So my mind is kind of shifting a little bit, in terms of the direction I want to go into with Black Americans and the things I want to get into. And, so naming and all that is secondary. So let's get back to where you come here for. Let's get back to what you come here for, which is learning about those 3 slave trades, okay? Again, The conditions under which slavery occurred is irrelevant because it is a historical fact that there were 3 slave trades in America. And black Americans were what? Caught up in all 3. The fact that we were enslaved and suffered Jim Crow and black codes, airstrike bombings, redlining, all types of shit, mass incarceration, all types of shit that they have done to the black American. That is the only thing that matters. All this shit about Africa is irrelevant. I'm saying it. And y'all always say, oh, that you don't want to be African, that's self-hating. I'm a motherfucking black American that's melanated, that's dark skinned. I love being black American. We love our dark skins. We love our light skins. We don't care about the stuff that y'all talk about. That's not self-hating. We're black Americans. We're embracing who we are. We're embracing our motherfucking culture. We're embracing our hair. We're embracing our nose. We're embracing our skin. That got to do with being black American, our ethnicity. That got to do with us, being great. We ain't got to credit nobody. I ain't crediting no white man. I ain't crediting no Asian. I ain't crediting no Latina. I ain't crediting no African. I ain't crediting nobody for my motherfucking greatness, for my brilliance. No, this come from the Negro. This is from black American. This is from North America, okay? My ancestors been motherfucking here for as far back as I can go with my genealogy. They've been here in North Carolina, in Alabama, in Georgia. So that's what the fuck we gonna rep. We rep in the South. We ain't got time to. You ain't coming to me with some shit from 5,000 miles away. You got fuck out of here. Miss me with that bullshit. And that's what I gotta say. That's what I gotta say about it. And I'm ending it there. They shouldn't have sold your ass. If they loved you so much, you want to be African so bad and all this shit, they shouldn't have sold you. Shit. That's how I look at it. They shouldn't have sold them. If you wanted, you didn't. So I ain't gotta claim you. I ain't claiming you if you betrayed me. You betrayed us. For those of us who may have African blood, you shouldn't have sold them. Who took us in and showed us the way? Black Indigenous. So I see Black Indigenous in my mom. I see it in my family. And so I claim whatever I claim admixed for me. But y'all not about to sit up here and tell me that I need to look 5,000 miles away 500 years ago and shit when them motherfuckers was the one that got this shit popping. Ain't nobody coming back to get no motherfucking credit for what the black American has done today. Their genius that they have produced, their globally recognized culture that everybody fucking copy off of, the foods that we love and cook and that we've created, the intricacies of the culture that we do, certain things that we do in our households that nobody would ever motherfucking understand, certain things our parents say that nobody would ever, daddy long leg baby dolls, that's a black American culture. You go into our grandparents' house, you see daddy long leg dolls. Them dolls is like, those dolls are so rare now. But I know I literally have an 86-year-old aunt, like a black American 86-year-old aunt, great aunt. Do you know she got over probably 100 daddy long leg dolls? These dolls are like 50, 60 years old, no lie. In her house, these dolls are worth thousands of dollars, and they are so unique. And she would get them custom made to mimic actual family members who passed. That's black American shit. Black American. You think I'm about to go and say this culture come from Africa? No. Where's their daddy long leg dolls? Over there that they collect. No. I'm not giving nobody nothing. No, nothing from this black American culture. I ain't sharing it. I ain't saying you got it from me. I'm not saying that we got it from Africa. I ain't saying we got it from... No. We gotta stand alone. We gotta stand as one ethnicity. And we gotta claim our shit. I don't care how extreme I sound. Because everybody got a right to claim what's theirs and to produce what's theirs. Now, out of that, we can get along. Or whatever, long as the respect is there and the acknowledgement of my ethnicity is there. But I'm not letting nobody claim nothing. And if that mean I gotta go to the extreme to do it, I'll do it. If that mean I gotta cut the ties to that continent in order to preserve the black American way of life and black American culture and promote Black American culture and promote our essence and promote our preservation and promote that we don't get ethnicide, that's what the fuck I will do. You're damn right. You're damn Skippy. You're damn Skippy, because ain't nothing self-hating about me. I live in a black area. Every area I ever lived in has been Black American. Sure has. Sure has. I don't do the riffraff and the hood shit. I don't like hood. I don't like the hood. But when it comes to finding some upstanding Black American neighborhood where they mind their business, they go to work and they live in their neighborhoods and they chill out and they come together and do what they got to do, that's where I will be. Ain't nothing stuff hating about me, bitch. Nothing whatsoever. I've been like this my whole motherfucking life, embracing my people first, putting the Black American first. I used to put that African first, just like I did my own people. I used to put him first, include him and her in everything. And what did I get? A slap in the motherfucking face. Gave me their ass to kiss. Shitted on my people, dogged my people. And now they want to come back and try to, we created hip hop, we created jazz, we create together. The African gave you that. The African did this. The African. No! No. It don't work that way. It don't work that way. Nope. So anybody that's on these reparations task force trying to get you to focus on Africa, you need to tell them, do you know how traumatized I am by that continent and them people? What about my pain as a Black American? What about our pain? What about when why if they loved us so much and they care so much, why they ain't do shit in 500 years? Why they sell you in the first place? Why I gotta give credit to a place that fucking sold me 500 years ago? Why? You don't even have a good answer. What benefit do I get? You don't get, oh, that's so hating. Bitch, I'm a Black American. No. If they cared so much and if they loved you, they didn't do shit for you in 500 years, did they? Nope. They came over here, the African immigrants came over here acting a damn fool, dogging you out. Did they not? Yes. The Africans over in the continent, they minding their business. They really don't give a damn about us either. So what the fuck I need to be giving all this homage and claiming a 500-year past for some shit that was severed 500 years ago? It's severed when you put them on a motherfucking boat for money, for muskets and rum. That's when you severed the tides, Africa. You severed those tides. Hands off the Black American. Hands off of them. They are new people now. We are Black Americans. And within Black America, we have splinters. But we are all one people. We have ADOS, we have FBA, we have Negro, we have Black Indigenous, we have Freedmen. Okay? And that's who we are. We are one people. Now, y'all want to sit up there and do that infighting, Black America. You want to sit up there and do that infighting and cause these rifts, you're going to be looking like motherfucking Africa with all that tribalism. I'm not letting it go down. I am not going to promote tribalism within Black American ethnicity. Not going to happen. You're going to get your act together. You're going to stop that infighting. And we're going to shame those who try to get us to infight. Now, them freedmans that was problematic and popping shit, okay, let's hold their feet to the fire and move on. It's not every freedman. It's not every fucking freedman, Black Indigenous. Not every freedman is wicked and evil. Y'all done made them out to be the damn devil. I'm like, jeez. You know, now you're looking at me like you're portraying us for the freedmen. And I'm like, I love all of you the same. I totally love all of you the same. I don't know what else you want me to do. I have an abundance of love in my heart. I am a walking entity, a walking reincarnation of Kali Ma. Are you kidding me? I love all of my people just the same. So no, you're not going to get me. You got to pick a side. You got to pick a side. You got to pick what motherfucking side? We all the same goddamn people. You're not going to be looking like Africa fighting over stupid shit, cutting each other's breasts off and heads off because of tribalism. Or you're a different tribe. Oh, you can't come over in this area. Oh, you ain't doing that. You got to learn from that. You got to learn from that and say no. Okay? So those who have caused problems, we air that out, hash it out. But don't let these motherfucking freedmans cause all this division either, because some of them are causing a lot of division too. Some of them are. And if I need to name names, I will name names. I'll put their name right in this motherfucking video. And put their name right in the title of the video too. I don't give a fuck. But I ain't trying to be messy like that. You know, I'm generally not a messy person. Something drastically has to be wrong if I'm sitting here being messy on the internet. Something drastically has to be wrong. Seriously. So let's get to the work that we've came here for. We got proof of the 3 slave trades. We're going to go through all of it using scholarly peer-reviewed material of the Pacific, the Indian, and transatlantic slave trade to triangulate my point that the condition under which slavery occurred does not matter. All that matters is that we were enslaved in America, that we were lynched, and that America has to pay. And the reason why we won't focus on the transatlantic slave trade in this video, because it's the dominant narrative that's being pushed by the nonprofit organizations who are writing legislation on behalf of Black Americans to push their own agenda, even as millions of Black Americans cannot readily prove the narrative that they're pushing through their genealogy. That's a fucking problem. That's a fucking problem. And that is why I say only focus on the claim of American slavery. Not no transatlantic. Okay, Black America? So let's go to, we're going to cover something very rare today. We're going to cover the East Asian slave boats that came to America with dark-skinned Negroes, dark-skinned Indians, obviously, from East Asia, who were reclassified as Negro and put on the throne on a slave plantation with Africans and Indians, indigenous Indians from North America. Yep, so let's cover that first. There were East Asiatic Indians, we'll say that. East Asiatic Indians, so I don't confuse you. The East Asia Indians come from East Asia, or South Asia rather, and then we'll cover the Indian slave trade of North America. Those are going to be 2 different topics, and I'll let you know throughout the video when I switch, okay? So now let's start the East Asiatic Indian slave trade to North America, okay? So let's get this first document up, and we'll have some reference at the end. So I just want to read to you this stuff. You know, we're going to go through it nice and smooth. Okay, so while preparations are underway for a grand commemoration of Jamestown's 14th anniversary in May-June 2007, we have uncovered compelling evidence of the presence of people from the Indian subcontinent going as far back as 375 years in Virginia. People identified in American court documents of the time as East Indians or Asiatic Indians. Again, they were dark-skinned. As these South Asians melded into the population, they would be identified as Negro, colored, mulatto, in the ethnic cauldron that was evolving in America, thus losing much of their racial distinctiveness, which in passing generation merged into the African American community. That's what I've been saying. Largely as these South Asians melded, largely unaware of their Indian roots. See? So that's just, we're going to go deeper because we'll pull up some newspapers. So that's just one. My research into this early American history suggests that people from South Asia were transported as indigent servants or slaves. First by trading vessels belonging to the Dutch, French, and English, later by captains of American vessels. There is considerable evidence to suggest that lascars or seamen were recruited from Indian ports by European trading ships and on reaching Europe succumbed to the promises of agents who enlisted indentured workers for the New World. Or else, okay, so we see this is what happened. We had the Dutch, French, they was bringing some of them from the South Asia. So when you are saying, when you do your DNA test or whatever, when you do your genealogy, how did I get East Indian in here? How did I get Asian in here? How am I Asian? This is why, Black American. So I've been telling you your admixed, and admixed is a solid framework versus just saying, oh, I'm just 100% Indian, which is, I personally haven't seen it yet. Or you're 100% African, which I have not seen yet. I just haven't seen it. I have seen admixed mostly. Now, you have a right to go what you're going to identify as, but just know that this is one of the reasons why. So let's keep going. A 2003 study prepared by Martha McCartney, a project historian for the National Park Service Jamestown Archaeological Assessment, reveals that Captain George Manife, who was assigned 1,200 acres of land in Jamestown in 1624 and used Tony, an East Indian, as a head right. This is further confirmed with a 2006 report from the Colonial Williamsburg Foundation, which identifies Menifee as a wealthy English merchant who arrived in Virginia in 1622 and obtained legal right to the land by paying passage for 24 immigrants, including an Indian. At the heart of the early migration to colonial America was the head right system designed to encourage immigration. Every Englishman who imported a laborer or servant, see, I personally don't like the way this is written because imported a laborer or servant, to the colony received a 50-acre land grant. So now let's go to another document. Social historian Thomas Brown, a faculty member at Lamar University, Beaumont, Texas, has corroborated this in a 2004 research paper. Brown explains that many Indians were reported to the American colonies by way of England, arriving already Christianized and fluent in English. Others arrived as slaves who had been captured and sold. Again, these are the Asiatic Southeast Indians. It is impossible to confidently estimate the size of the South Asian population in the Western Shore counties, but East Indians outnumber Indians in the extant colonial records after 1710 or so, acknowledges Brown. Furthermore, he claims in 18th century Chesapeake, South Asians stood out from sub-Saharan slaves, both in culture and appearance. So let's look at this document right here, which is a piece of paper from a newspaper. It says, Richmond County, July 14th. Runaway about the 20th of May. An East Indian named Thomas Greenwich. He is a well-made fellow, about 5 feet 4 inches high, wears his own hair, which is long and black, has a thin vivage, a very fly look, and a remarkable set of fine white teeth. A reward of 40 S will be paid for the person who delivers him to the subscriber. I guess it looks like an F to me, but I'm assuming that's an S. William Colston. So it says East Indian with long hair. Okay, so this person got reclassified as a Negro. This person got melded in with our culture. Simple as that. Okay, let's keep going. Runaway slave advertisements. Consider this. The Virginia Gazette of August 4th, 1768 describes one East Indian as a very well-made fellow, about 4 inches high, who had a thin visage, a very sly look. Okay, so I was reading it wrong when I said a fly look. I thought that was an F. I'm looking like fly. That very sly look, and a remarkable set of fine white teeth. Another is identified as an East Indian Negro man who speaks French and English. These were runaway slaves. They were on the plantation as well. So again, you see why it makes no sense to always want to get hung up on that transatlantic slave trade when you got to just start this shit at American slavery. That is the point, because this is what all reparations claims need to know, especially anything on that federal level. Anything on that federal level, or else you're going to just reclassify everybody as African. When I got the written motherfucking, this is the Virginia Gazette newspaper talking about East Indian Negroes. Are you kidding me? And we got something that's going to talk about the North American Indian too. We gonna wake it up, because I need Black Americans. I need you to fight like hell for your identity and your ethnicity to not be rooted in America. Okay, not some other shit all over the place. And we're doing that by acknowledging the amalgamation and the ethnogenesis of our people. The ethnogenesis does not just start with the transatlantic slave trade. No, and this is the proof. So let's keep going. On July 13th, 1776, the Virginia Gazette reported the escape of a servant man named John Newton, about 20 years of age, 5'5" or 6 inches high, slender made, is an Asiatic Indian by birth, has been about 12 months in Virginia, but lived 10 years, as he says in English, in the service of Sir Charles Whitworth. He wears long black hair which inclines to curl, tied behind and pinned up at the sides. Has a very sour look, and his lips project remarkably forward. He left his master on the road from Williamsburg between King William Courthouse and Todd's Bridge, where he left behind to come on slowly with a tired horse. I can't believe they wrote this shit like this. I ain't trying to laugh, but really. Virginia Gazette, this is a newspaper. You see that? You see it? Let's keep going. The advertisement by slave owner William Brown goes on. He is a good barber and hairdresser. It is probable he may endeavor to follow those occupations as a free man. Whoever takes up said servant and secures him in Gale, giving me information thereof, so that I may get him again, shall have $8 reward. And if delivered to me at Westward in Prince William, further reasonable charges paid by William Brown. Another advertisement placed in July 19th edition of the paper by the same William Brown ups the reward amount to $10. What was the added information about John Newton? I don't see, when you take screenshots of shit, stuff gets cut off. It's so freaking annoying. Let me see if I can, because I kind of feel like that's important. Let me see if I can get that information for you guys. Okay, I think I found it, guys. So I want to finish reading what that said and not just cut off for that. You know what I mean? Like I want to finish that. Okay, let's see. I think I found the original paper. Let's look for that John Newton again. Okay, let's see. Okay, it says added information that John Newton shaves and dresses well, but is much addicted to liquor. Damn. Okay. So that's what it said. So let's keep going. I think I just wanted to cut that out. I guess I don't remember. Okay, so let's look at this one. The above information is called from a digital collection of advertisements for runaway slaves and servants found in 18th century Virginia newspapers. This is very important because this is where your references come from. Black Americans, be prepared. Get a pen and paper out or be ready to screenshot this. There are many more such references to East Indians to be found in the Geography of Slavery Project in Virginia, compiled by Thomas Costa, Professor of History, University of Virginia's College at Wise for the Virginia Center for Digital History and Electronic Tech Center. The database is available right at this link, okay? Screenshot it. Maybe, matter of fact, I want to put this in the description center, so your ass can go to it, make it easier for you to go to. So that's what we're going to do. You can go there and make sure you document everything. Because Black Americans, when we get this reparations on a federal level, we're going to be in for a fight against these motherfuckers that's going to try to turn us back to Africa. No, we ain't letting it happen. Don't let it happen. And that go for all of you splinter lineages within Black American culture and Black American ethnicity. FBA, Freedman, ADOS, this is all for you as well. So let's keep going. Francis C. Azizi, I think I pronounced that wrong. Francis C. Azizi acknowledges that research assistance of Elizabeth F. Polfin in this project. I always like to give people the names, of shit. He has been researching the presence of people from the Indian subcontinent in earlier colonial America for nearly a decade. He dedicated this research to third generation Desi Zeddy and Rhea and Javon of Berkeley. See, and don't let these Indians, these East Asiatic Indians from India, try to get in your reparations claim. That's not the point. The point is to start the chattel slavery at American slavery, for you to still be on that 1870, for you to still be on that 1870 census, for you to still be going by black, colored, Negro in your genealogy documents, all of that. Because these people got reclassified to Negro. Make no mistake about it. So they not even in the picture, because we all got reclassified to Negro. So that's all you got to think about. So that is it for the Asiatic East Indian slave trade. That was a small little one, but I thought it was important because, I'm hearing Black Americans tell me, I'm telling you, there's stories in my family about East motherfucking Indians. Like, that's why when you see me, like, when y'all be like, why is she pushing all this East Indian shit? Do you know that I was doing that before I found out about genealogy? I've been doing that since I was 18 years old. I was in high school talking about Shakti and Tantra and Shiva and Kali Ma. I was like, literally, and then my mom was like, I gotta tell you something. She pulled me to the side. She said, yeah, we've heard stories about, she said, not the Indian over. Of course, we heard about the Indian in North America. We talking about over there. Them Southeast Asians. I said, really? Where'd you get? I said, how the hell you? We were talking about it. She said, yeah. And she told me about her grandfather rather, on her mother's side. And she let it be known. She said, yeah. She said he was an East Indian, not our type of Indian, and a black Indian, an East Indian. And I said, get the fuck out of here. She said, yeah. She said, I noticed that you've been all into that culture like that. She said, I felt like I needed to tell you because I don't want you to think you just pulled that out of nowhere. That might be ancestral. I said, really? Because I was eating China Sog. China Sog and fucking tandoori when I was 18 years old. No lie. Like I was tearing that shit up. And to me, this is just something that the Black American has to deal with. The Black American being amalgamated. Now, people get on us, particularly the freedmans. They like to say, well, y'all trying to be exotic Negroes. Stop trying to be exotic Negroes and just say that you're African. Bitch, we is exotic Negro. Hell yeah, the Black Americans is exotic as fuck. Are you kidding me? The Black American is very exotic. A very exotic Negro. So when people like to pick on us and say, we trying to be exotic Negroes, you're damn right. What's wrong with being exotic? We are very beautiful people. I'm talking about all Black Americans. It ain't about dark skin, light skin. It's not about what you mix with. None of that. It's not based on that. It's based on our ethnicity as a Black American. And yes, we are exotic people. We ain't talking about regular black and all this shit. Hell no. Just African. Hell no. So yes, when they try to play you Black American, try to say, why are you trying to be an exotic Negro and not claim Africa? You better flick your hair. If you got locks, you got dreadlocks, you got braids, you got an afro. Flick your hair all around. It's curly. My hair, it don't matter what hair type. I don't care if you got 4C hair, 3A hair, 3B. My hair is 3A. I don't give a fuck what kind of. Flick your hair and say, hell yeah, I'm an exotic Negro, bitch. Hell yeah. Flick your hair back and forth. Swing your hair back and forth. Or if you got short hair, if you got a fade, you a Black American man, rub your hands through your fade with your waves and your do-rag and say, hell yeah, I'm an exotic Negro. It don't matter about skin color. It matters about our ethnicity. It matters about how we went through this experience here, this unique lineage. You gotta hold on to that. That's why I wrote the Alchemy Reservoir for your black ass. I wrote that for the Black American to show the power, the essence. That is so powerful. You guys don't know how obsessed the world is with you is because of your Alchemy Reservoir. It's because your prana, your life force energy that you created in this country. Like, it's so huge. It's an energy force. It's an energy force. Do you know how enigmatic a Black American is on a world stage? Do you know, like, when I would go in places I'd be the only Black American, I was exotic. Are you kidding me? So yes, you are being an exotic Negro today. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. So let's continue. Now we go to the Pacific slave trade. Now we're going to learn about that. We're going to get into some documentations about that. Okay, so make sure you're taking screenshots and keeping these screenshots safely. Some people like to do pen and paper or whatever. Take your notes though. Okay, now we're going to Pacific slave trade. Let's go. In 1802, Denmark became the first country to stop participating in the Atlantic slave trade. England followed in 1807, the United States in 1808, Holland in 1814, and France in 1818, Spain in 1820, Portugal in 1836. See, my thing is, why they ain't talking about Africa? See, they don't like to put Africa in it. They want to make them look like they were subservient. And that's, they were colonized and got fucked up. I'm not saying that didn't happen. But Africa was selling slaves until 1875. They were still selling slaves up until 1875, and even until World War I. So, you know, they didn't put that in here. Then the same multinational commercial interests that had operated the trade in Africans turned to Asia for laborers, and from 1840 to 1875, an estimated 138,000 Chinese men were shipped to Latin America and the Caribbean. Remember in my video on my old channel, when I was comparing the phenotype of the Jamaican to to the Black American. I was talking about them slanty eyes, and I kept saying, I said, they brought a lot of Chinese over there as the indentured servant, as the lower class, and they was mixed in with the Negroes over there, with the dark skin over there in the Caribbean. And I kept showing you about their slanty eyes and how people was laughing at them Jamaicans, like what's his name, Tyson Beckford and Naomi Campbell, how they was laughing at them when they was saying I'm Chinese ethnics, because they was so, you know, they had very, very brown skin. So people was like, you just don't want to be black, you just don't want to be African, and they were getting mad at them. The motherfuckers really are part Chinese. You could look at their eyes. Like Tyson Beckford and Naomi Campbell, they weren't lying about that, making that shit up. That shit is real. They were saying they great great grandparents was Chinese and shit. They mean that shit. And if you talk to a Jamaican that's not maybe obviously famous like them, but you talk with them average Jamaicans, and they'll tell you their story. They'll tell you, I heard about Chinese grandparent. I heard about. So that's where that's coming from, with the Pacific slave trades. I mean, we're going to bring it back to America, but I wanted to bring that out because now let's go deeper. Proponents of this, they call it the coolie trade, claim willing immigrants were indenturing themselves for a few years, usually between 6 and 8, after which they would be free to settle in the New World or return home. In fact, few of the laborers from China were voluntary contracts when they existed, were often signed under duress and rarely honored. Ooh. Chinese saying men were being sold like pigs, referred to the trade as mai jai jai, the sale of piglets. So they had them up. I guess they was enslaving them Chinese too. About 80% of the men shipped across the Pacific from China were kidnapped or decoyed. Most were from the southern coastal region, and close to 100,000 landed in Peru. See, remember I was telling you, there were some Black Americans that was coming to me telling me they got Peruvian ancestors. No lie. They were from ADOS too. They were saying, how do I get Peruvian in here? We're going to go deep. The Peruvian Congress, during a failed attempt to halt the traffic in 1856, likened it to kind of a let me get finished. Likened it to a kind of Negro slave trade. But traffickers found shipping Chinese yielded even greater profits than the African slave trade. According to James O'Kelly, a reporter for the New York Herald, the 900 Chinese men on board a ship he visited in Havana, Cuba, were worth $450,000 to their importers and had been obtained for a mere $50,000. The length of a voyage, whether the route was north to Yokohama and Honolulu, or through the rift-strewn China Sea, Straits of Sunda, and south of Australia, depended on the season, calm, storms, and stopovers for supplies and repairs. Most ships leaving Macao reached Callao, Peru, in 120 days. The longest on record was 214. On average, 1 in 7 died. The mortality rate for 1862, however, was 41.5% on one ship. 246 out of 323 Chinese died. Captains attempted mutinies on most voyages, sometimes more than once. Few, though, were successful, and victories were Pyrrhic. Mutineers, upon their return to China, were usually killed, executed, or shipped out again. So, this is how the Pacific slave trade started. You know, they was bringing niggas over from China and shit, taking them to the Caribbeans. Some of them came here, but more went to the Caribbean for sure. Now that I remember some years ago researching that. So let's keep going. Resistance persisted after landing in the form of escape, suicide, assassination of overseers, burning of cane fields, and outright rebellion. Punishment was always swift and harsh, but a laborer had little to lose since 50 to 75% died during the first years of their contracts, and those who did survive often had their period of indenture extended repeatedly against their will. Exporting guano for fertilizer was then Peru's greatest source of wealth, and Chinese performed the bulk of the work in the industry. But most contract laborers toiled on sugar and during the 1860s cotton plantation or in small factories, and in the 1870s for an American entrepreneur building a railroad. Some were put to work as cooks, bakers, mill hands, gardeners, porters, handymen, and house servants. Since contract laborers could be obtained and replaced cheaply, masters had little incentive to treat them well. Those who dug for guano fared the worst. As early as 1854, 9 English shipmasters reported on the suffering of Chinese workers to Britain's Lords of the Privy Council of Trade. Diplomats, journalists, and abolitionists in many countries protested the trade. Free Chinese in Peru, self-employed as grocers, tailors, shoemakers, and bakers, butchers, and tradesmen, complained so vociferously of abuses against the indentured that masters accused them of fomenting rebellion. In Lima, societies such as the Fukian and Swatow Guild, the Kwantong Guild, and the Tongxing Club submitted memorials to the emperor in Peking through the United States minister to Peru. Particular instance of the Pacific slave trade does not involve the Americas. So I wanted to give you the backdrop, though. I thought it was important because you see how close the Caribbean is to North America and South America, and you see the intricacies. What I'm trying to get you to see is to see how this was multifaceted. Because we know how some of them Caribbeans had to come over here. So again, the Black American is amalgamated. So again, it drives my point. It's a triangulation of how the reparations claim on a federal level needs to start at the American institution of slavery for this very reason. Now let's keep going with the Pacific slave trade. At the height of the Spanish Empire, the Manila Galleon, an annual flotilla between Manila and Acapulco, I know I'm pronouncing this name. I know I'm pronouncing this stuff wrong. Please forgive me. Was considered the lifeline of Spain's economy, bringing silver from the mines of New Spain to the markets of Asia. On a reverse trip, the galleons will be loaded with Asian luxury goods such as spices, silks, and slaves. The episode presents a micro-history of the trans-Pacific slave trade through the lens of Diego de la Cruz, a Chino slave who managed to escape and evade capture for 3 years in the highlands of Central America. Guest Christy Flannery found Diego's story in the Spanish colonial archives and narrates his tale in the broader context of the powerful political and economic forces in work in Spain's global empire. So Black Americans, how does this relate to you? For many of you, it won't. But for those of you who have come to me, I remember, no lie, being in a room full of ADOS who were doing their genealogy about a year and a half ago, and they were all talking about shit from Peru and shit from South America. I remember it like it was nothing. They was like, how do I got people, or they had the DNA test, and they was confused as to why they had Peru and they had Chinese and they had all this shit in their DNA and all this shit in their genealogy records. That is why. This is all I'm showing you why the Trans-Pacific slave trade. This is why you have the Peruvian and all this stuff, and why you saw that in your records. So let's keep going. So this one is the White Pacific, U.S. imperialism and black slavery in the South Seas after the Civil War. So we're still with the Pacific slave trade, and this is the University of Hawaii Press, and this is on JSTOR. Everybody knows that JSTOR is a academic scholarly repository for all sources that are usually like peer reviewed or through these academic journals or whatever. And I do have access to JSTOR through Columbia University and Georgia State University. So we're able to look at these documents together. So what I like about them is that now JSTOR is doing stuff like giving synopses of chapters, so we don't got to read the whole damn chapter. They're just giving us synopses of the damn chapters now. So we're able to look at some of this stuff. So let's look. Chapter 2, Blackbirding. This is on JSTOR. You see the URL underneath it. Between 1866 and 1891, perhaps 48,000 Pacific Islanders, mostly from the Solomons, were brought to work in Queensland given the nature of the trade. It is obviously difficult to gauge a precise figure. For example, it is estimated that during the heyday of blackbirding, 70,000 healthy boys and girls were taken from the New Hebrides alone. The devastation induced by these alien invasions overwhelmed the New Hebrides, whose population, which in 1870 was generally thought to be 650,000, fell to a mere 100,000 by the turn of the century. From 1863 to 1904, nearly 60,000 Kuril Sea Islanders were. Okay, let me stop there. So now we're going to talk about the Pacific slave trade as it relates to the American Negro, the Black American. So now you're going to see where you come in. So this is where you come in, because I want you to know that the Pacific slave trade does refer to you. It does not just refer to Chinese people who were brought to Caribbean and to Peru. It refers to you as well. So now here's that same book. We're on chapter 4 of that same book, okay? According to historian R.A. Derrick, in the early 19th century, Fiji Negroes who were sometimes landed from American ships were even more prized than white men. There was at least one North American Red Indian known as Indian John who having been paid off in Fiji from the American whaler acquired Tiwadromo Island in Galileo Bay, Kadavu, and settled there. But Negroes from the United States and former British West Indies were cherished particularly because their English language skills were accompanied by a complexion that meant they were virtually indistinguishable from indigenous Fijians, which allowed them to integrate more effectively. So again, we see how the Black American was taken from, the Negro American was taken from North America, took into the Fiji. You blended in, you look just like them Fiji people who come from what? From where? Melanesia, where they bring some of them Fijians over here as well. So let's keep going. Now we're in chapter 9, Toward a White Australia. This book is good. So if you guys can get your hands on this book, you'll have to pay for it, but you know, it's worth the Black American understanding all of these things, understanding all of what makes them unique ethnicity. None of this ever happened to nobody, just us. Okay, so we need to understand these things. Let's keep going. With U.S. Negroes pouring into the colonies of Australia, especially the area surrounding Melbourne, and darker-skinned bonded labor flooding into Queensland, those who deemed the most literal and chauvinistic variety of white supremacy to be precious were growing ever more concerned. As in Hawaii, a kind of racial protectionism arose to blunt the free trade and labor, whereby Euro-Australians of various stripes began to object what they saw as competition presenting by the darkening of these colonies. The Australians' discourse was profoundly influenced by similar trends in the United States, says scholar Marilyn Lake. So I just also want to show you, and I'm just going to run through some screenshots because, again, the specific slave trade, it just gives, we're covering this because there were a lot of Black Americans that was wondering how did these different admixtures get into their bloodline. And I just wanted to show you that this is why. And again, this is why you need to just focus on the American slavery in North America. So look at these different places where the Pacific slave trade was affecting. Anywhere where there was dark-skinned people. You got Mexico and Guatemala. You see that. You have Peru. You see Western Australia, where Aborigines were. You see Fiji. You see French Polynesia. You see where wherever there were some dark-skinned people. Samoa. So that's why, and here we go for the Black American, Hawaiian Islands. Okay, so let's read this. The sugar industry in the Hawaiian Islands was expanding rapidly during the 1870s, and despite over 50% of all male able-bodied Native Hawaiians being utilized as workers on these plantations, there were an insufficient number to keep up with production. From 1868 to 1872, around 200 people from places such as Tahiti, the Caroline Islands, and Light Islands were recruited to work on the Hawaiian plantations owned by European colonists. Most of these people died and the operation was considered a failure. However, In 1877, British officials in Hawaii planned a more organized system of Pacific Islander recruitment. Captain H.W. Mist of the Royal Navy was employed to arrange a large shipment of islanders to be recruited for Hawaii. Mist bought the vessel Stormbird in Sydney and appointed another ex-Navy officer, Captain George Jackson, to conduct the expedition. On the first voyage, Stormbird recruited 85 people from Rotuma, Nanuti, Mayana, and Tabitaua. I know I'm pronouncing this shit wrong. Sorry, y'all. Jackson called in at Pohnpei on the way to Hawaii, where he chained up local headmen and shot another trying to attempt a rescue. During the voyage, Jackson had attempted to kidnap at gunpoint a number of young women from Mayana, but was interrupted by the presence of another ship. Stormbird made around another 500 recruiting voyages involving violence and kidnapping, mostly setting to Gilbert Islands. On one occasion, a government agent abroad, the vessel Henry Freedman, brought a boatload of Gilbert Islanders from another blackbirding vessel named Seaway. By 1880, the labor trade to Hawaii expanded to New Hebrides. Captain Cadigan of Premier took people from these islands via night raids, arm attacks, and firing cannons at canoes. The death rates of these recruits on Primare as they were transported to Hawaii were as high as 20%. Okay, I just want to make sure. Okay. Allie Rowe undertook the last recruiting voyage to the Pacific Islands for the Hawaii plantations in 1887. The vessel, commanded by Captain Phillips, proceeded illegally without a license, and Phillips was also later charged and convicted of kidnapping in relation to the final voyage. So, you see how this affects you. This is Hawaii. This is Hawaii. Slave trade. Still the specific slave trade, but you see what they was doing in Hawaii. Again, it's referred to America. Is Hawaii not a part of the United States? So we make the case once again that the Black American was affected by the specific slave trade via what happened in Hawaii, the Hawaiian Islands. They were affected by the Asiatic East Indian slave trade via Virginia 375 years ago, which is the evidence we brought before. Now we're going to get into the North American Indian slave trade as well, and you're going to have your evidence to know that Black America, you've been affected by all of these slave trades, and your federal reparations claim need to be hung up on American chattel slavery only. Do not go to one landmass. Don't just say, oh, what you did in Hawaiian Islands is a separate claim and all this bullshit. No. American chattel slavery, that's how you stop the infighting. Okay? Don't let people tell you it's a separate claim. You gotta go to here. Bitch, these records are showing that I'm an amalgamation and that there was 3-4 fucking slave trades here in this bitch. That's what you need to say. Don't let people tell you that shit. Because what they're trying to do is bring some weird agenda politics to an objective matter. It is an objective statement that slavery occurred in America and that the American Negro was caught up in it in America. Now, how they got here, they might have came from Hawaii, they might have came from Fiji, niggas might have came from East Asia, motherfuckers came from Africa. It don't motherfucking matter. It don't matter. What matters is that they was enslaved in America. Because when we got here, they labeled us all Negro, including the ones that was already over here, which we about to cover now, because they did this was a reclassification experiment done by pretty much the Brotherhood, powerful players that knew what that was intricately mapped out. It was intricately mapped out of what they was gonna do, who they was gonna fuck with, what bloodlines they was gonna mix and all that stuff. So now we're gonna go to the Indian slave trade of North America, or we call it the intra-slave trade in some instances. So that's very important. So let's go. What we see: the American Indian slave trade, the rise of the English Empire in the American South, 1670 through 1717. Again, we're still on what? We're on JSTOR. This is peer-reviewed research only. This is Yale University Press. This is Alan Gallay. This book was written 20 years ago. There is no agenda behind this. This is just objectively shit that has happened to the Black American. We were traded in American slavery, federal reparations needs to include that. So let's go. We're going to be looking at a chapter, again, To Carolina, the Westo and the Trade in Indian Slaves, 1670 to 1685. When the English planted a settlement at Carolina in 1670, no one could envision the extent of the impact on the South. Entering a region already in the throes of vast cultural, social, and political change, the English would provide the dominant societal framework that replaced the chiefdoms that had prevailed for so long. The changeover was not immediate, however. The Spanish mission system, the new Native American confederacies, and their surviving chiefdoms long operated in the region, but the English plantation model steadily expanded until it reigned over in the South. Crossroads of culture, Scots, Yamasee, and the Carolina colony. The establishment of Carolina and the immigration of Westo and then the Savannah had made the South Atlanta coastal and Savannah River subregions hives of activity. Through Charlestown entered European trade goods and more immigrants, leaving the South were animal pelts, livestock, woods, products, and Indian slaves. Watching with great interest and trepidation were Spanish and Indians. English slaving threatened everyone, but English goods enticed interest from many. Much more than the Spanish, the English traded their wars with Indians. Metal tools, guns, alcohols, textiles, and fripperies led numerous Indians to seek out the English. Let's keep going. This one is, we're in chapter 4. This one is Arkansas, Tunica, Tennessee, and French missionaries. Communication across the cultural divide, 1698 to 1700. So mind you, this was Indian. They're talking about they was enslaving Indians. There was also Africans here too. They went on the same plantation, clearly. All French activity centered on the Mississippi through the Father of Waters, which connected Louisiana to Canada and Europe. The French explored and understood the region. Early French missionaries and soldiers did not stray far from the river. When they did edge away, it was always along confluent rivers. This meant that their initial contact with Indian peoples tended to be with the smaller groups who lived near the mouth of the Mississippi, and the medium to larger groups such as the Natchez to the Arkansas upriver, rather than the Choctaw, Chickasaw, and Creek who lived inland. Now, why is this important? Do you know how many fucking Black Americans I don't talk to that be naming these damn tribes and they genealogy records? So now you know why. And then you see Black and Negro, and it's like, well, I know I'm from Choctaw. I know I got Creek and all this stuff. These are not these light-skinned, mongoloid, $5 Indians that look white and shit that we talking about. We talking about melanated Indians. You seen on Fiji Island how dark them people. You saw where they just was taking us from over here, from the Pacific slave trade, and taking them over to Fiji instead of fucking Australians. Why were they able to do that? They said they looked just like them. So why is there dark-skinned people native to fucking Fiji Islands? Those people came from Melanesia 50,000 years ago. Weather is similar in the South of America. And your stupid ass don't think there was no dark-skinned Indians in America, in North America, and the South and fucking Mississippi. As hot as it get in Georgia, as hot as it get in Mississippi. You know Georgia is hotter than Kenya and Africa in certain parts of Georgia. And your motherfucking ass gonna sit up here and tell me there weren't no black motherfuckers already over here? You really gonna sit up your ass out there and say that shit with a straight face? And they taking your asses over from here to Fiji Island? And you can't say, oh, Fiji Island, those were Africans. They took them from Africa. Bitch, they've been over here for 3,500 years. Can't use that lie. Can't use it because their genetic markers came from Melanesia 50,000 years ago. They was in Melanesia before that for 50,000 years. So you can't use that. Them motherfuckers got afros and noses just like us. Just like the Black American. So now you see why, I don't buy into all that all black folk come from Africa. And I got some hot fire coming for y'all, boy. Man, this next book is my 15th book. This next book that's about to come out, it's gonna light a fire. Ooh, it's debunking that whole. I don't even want to, because I don't want to come off like I'm hating on that continent, because I'm not. But this book is debunking that out of Africa shit, out of Africa theory. But what's beautiful about it is that African, the Black American, the Caribbean, and anybody that's dark skinned they're going to love it. When I say even the African, because I come up with my own theory, we go deep. First I just rip to shreds that out of Africa theory, just rip it to shreds. I go through the whole fields, the founder, where it came from, who thought of it, and I just rip the entire things to shreds and bring forth black people's indigenous dark-skinned cultures, including that African. I tell their creation story of their human origins of life, which tends to be rooted in chemistry, biochemistry, quantum physics, abiogenesis, polygenesis. Most black people, most melanated people are polygeneticists. They have their creation stories. So what I do is I just go deep into the science about that shit, and I'm like, nah, these motherfuckers ain't about to tell us where we origin and human origins and all this stuff. And believe it or not, I know it comes to like, well, you tearing down the out of Africa theory, that means you're coming at Africans. Absolutely not. We're coming at the British paleoanthropologists that came up with them, white men. We got the names of them: Chris Stinger, Rebecca Cann, Alan Wilson. White people. Charles Darwin. Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? That came up with that shit. And we talking about the molecular genetic part of the out of Africa theory comes around 1970s, develops in 1990s. All that shit can be ripped to shreds. And I talk about the methodologies, the limitations of the methodologies. Oh man, like I just go in there like with a knife, with a butcher, like that. Pew, pew, pew. Why? Because we have to preserve the ethnicities of every melanated culture on this planet, including those in Africa, in the Caribbean, and in South America and North America. All of it needs to be preserved. We need to come up with our own narratives of what we think, our own science of what we say human origins came from, first and foremost. And I talk about the role of melanin. I go deep into melanin. What connects us is melanin. And I talk about the depths of that stuff. We talk about that. And we go, and yes, you may think like, oh, you attacking, this framework. This stuff did not come from our people. The out of Africa theory was not created by Africans, and I studied their own creation stories and can debunk it with their own scientific stories. I'm using the framework of the Dogon to do it. Like seriously. So no one can come and say, you hate Africa so much. Look what you did. You hate Africa. This is just self-hate. I turned that whole field on its fucking head and took it out of paleoanthropology and archaeology and put it where it belongs, the origins of human life. And yes, I've used a lot of different scientific fields. I mean, it's wild, some wild shit. But I will say this: there will be not one melanated person on this planet, including Africans, who would feel like I did them dirty. I will say that the Africans are not going to be like, oh man, we can't support that because you trying to say that human life didn't start in Africa. Once they read this shit, and they going, first of all, they're going to be like, yeah, that Africa shit is stupid as fuck. But once they read what I put forth and how everybody is dignified, because that's what is important, to dignify melanated people everywhere they are at, and not to ethnocide them, because I make a case that out of Africa theory was meant to ethnocide every single dark-skinned person outside of Africa. And it was meant to play the fuck out of Africans too, by the way. But I attack that shit. I attack that. And we need that hot fire. And I'm telling you, y'all gonna love it. Everybody gonna love it, including that African. Because I know y'all love to say she hate Africans so much. No, I'm just a very high level, high consciousness vibrating entity. And I'm able to see shit that most of y'all can't pick up on. And yes, these apparatuses, these white folks, they was doing all types of bullshit to try to get us off our square. Okay, so yes, there were dark-skinned people inhabited planet Earth first on every fucking continent that you can think of. Every continent that your ass know, there was a dark-skinned ass there. Okay, you understand me? I don't want to ever hear you think that North America didn't have no dark-skinned people, but fucking Fiji and Melanesia and Polynesia and fucking South America do, and India do, and fucking China do. And Africa does, but no dark-skinned people in North America. Are you fucking stupid? I don't ever want to ever hear you fix your mouth. And I know it's been mostly you freedmen trying to push that shit. And I'm putting the call out now. When that's out of Africa, this out of there, this when I debunk this out of Africa theory through this book, this 15 book that's going to be coming out soon, I want your best PhD scholars, your white ones I want them peer reviewed. I would tear their ass to shreds in the debate. I want the smoke, not so much for my own people, because I really don't think, I think once y'all truly read it, that there will be no way, because I gutted that shit so hard, I don't think that y'all will be the ones to come at me. I know Black Americans won't, but I don't think Africans will do either. I don't think Pan-Africans, believe it or not, I don't think a lot of Pan-Africans are going to want smoke with that. I think they're going to read it and be like, you know what, she got some big ass points, man, some serious loopholes. I come with the founder, I got the words of the founder of the Out of Africa theory saying that he really didn't even know what the fuck he was talking about, y'all. So we going deep. But I want the white motherfuckers. I want they ass. I want the white PhDs that sat up here and promoted this shit. I want they motherfucking ass. I want Richard Dawkins' ass. Let me start. That man is an elder. I feel kind of bad coming at the elder folk, because Black Americans, we've been told not to come at elders and stuff. So I don't, believe it or not, I respect that. I really don't like to go after elders. But I want they ass, because they the ones that's pushing this shit. They push that shit on our people. Was it Richard Dawkins? It might not have been him, because I believe he's an evolutionary biologist. Does he deal with the Out of Africa theory? I'm not sure. But anybody that's promoting that shit, they're most likely white, and they need to be dealt with. They need to be dealt with. I want they ass on a platter, and I'm gonna smoke their ass. Bring any of them to me. It is what it is. So let's keep going. I know that was a tangent, but I wanted to tell you about that, because I'm tired of you saying that there is no dark-skinned people in North America. That is totally false. Totally false. And I do not want to ever hear a Black American say nothing like that in their life. Okay? So let's keep going. Diplomacy and War, 1699, 1706. So you see the page number, you see the link and all that stuff, you know. The quest for Indian slaves shaped and distinguished the first decade of the 18th century South. Slavers stepped up their attacks by organizing both large armies and small raiding parties that scoured the countryside in search of prey. Thomas Nyheim, who participated in at least one of these raids, left a rare description of how such a raid was conducted in a legend for a map of Florida that he produced. The 19th part legend depicts the step-by-step process he and 33 Yamasee followed in Florida. Apparently, they took the inland passage from South Carolina to North Florida, entering St. John's River. Okay. 7 Indians, traders, and the reform of the Indian trade, 1707 to 1708. Now, many of you Black Americans have records that go back this far. Yes, you do. Genealogy records. Many of you do. So many of you most of them got caught up in that Indian slave trade. To reform Indian affairs, it was necessary to collect information about the South Natives people. Thomas Nyheim did his part by recording his observation and drawing maps of Southern Indians. John Story contributed his expertise through letters to the Queen and other leading personages of the empire. Colony officials collected and collated census data not just of Indians, but of Europeans and Africans too, through which they created a profile of the colony and the region's Indian population. An examination of the demographic data South Carolina officials generated in 1708 to 1715 allows us to place in greater context. Okay, so we see that one. Again, we're not covering the whole chapters. We're just only reading the synopsis of some of these chapters. I don't even think these are synopses. I think it's like cut off. So I apologize. I could have gotten more, but then the video will be too long anyway. So if you guys want to do the research or you want this information, you can hit me up and I'll get it to you. 11 contours of the Indian slave trade. So now we're on 288, 314 of this book. Okay. Whatever pretensions the South Carolinians had for reforming relations with their Indian allies, they had few qualms about destroying and enslaving those who they classified as enemies. Natives aligned with the French. Although these natives posed little or no direct threat to the colony, South Carolina's government factions and Indian allies all agreed on the expediency and profitability of attacking and capturing French allied Indians. The slave trade thus continued to play a preeminent role in shaping South Carolina diplomacy. It linked the colony and its allies while distracting both from the problems between them. You see the slave trade. You see, and this, you see this. You see that this is the Indian slave trade in South Carolina. Where the fuck do you think they was mixing these people with if there was Africans over at the same time? Where was they at? The plantation, clearly. So when you try to tell Black Americans that they only was traded in the transatlantic slave trade, that is categorically, empirically false. They were traded in all of them. So once again, federal reparations claim needs to start where? American chattel slavery. Let's see what this is. African passages, low country adaptations. Where does this come from? American Indian slavery in Carolina. Okay, so let's read what this is from. Okay. Arriving of the Englishmen of North Carolina from Richard Haukelut, the discourse concerning Western planting. 1585. Map includes the names of the American Indian groups already settled on the coast that would become Carolina colony, including the Sokoton and the Wampanoag. I don't know how to pronounce that, guys. Okay, so let's just read what this is. I don't think I read it beforehand. I think I was. Let's see what this says, guys, because I have to go back to the source because I collected all this a while ago, believe it or not. I'm just not putting it all together. I think I did take the source from somewhere, but let's keep going. Anyways, when English settlers arrived in the Low Country region in the late 17th century, they encountered American Indian groups, including the Wando, Kiowa, Stono, Ottawan, Edisto, Tuscaroras, and Yamasis. Many of these indigenous people had already been exposed to Europeans through Spanish and French exploration, and their populations were decimated by European diseases. I think I got a conspiracy about that shit too, y'all. Those who survived engaged strategically with Carolina settlers in trade and military alliances, as well as conflict and open warfare. Alliances and rivalries shifted over time, creating a complex web of collaboration and exchange, as well as animosity between American Indians and Carolina settlers. Slavery contributed to tensions between Low Country Native groups and Carolina settlers. While attempting to replicate the Barbadian system of plantation agriculture dependent on enslaved African labor, Carolina settlers also enslaved significant numbers of American Indians. Settlers traded guns and often manufactured goods to American Indians for deer skins and slaves, creating a cycle of debt and dependency that often led European trader abuses. Barbadians were especially involved in developing an American. Let's see, I hope I got that. What's this? Okay. Barbadians were especially involved in developing American Indian slave trade in Carolina to the West Indies. While Native Americans were familiar with the Low Country landscape and could often escape from Carolina plantations, they could not easily escape from West Indian plantations. Other American Indians were held captive in Carolina. By the 1720s, the Carolina census included 1,500 enslaved American Indians out of an estimated total population in the colony of 17,000. Contrasting beginnings of slavery in North America. So this is a map. So you can see the map. You see where the French, see Great Britain, territories are disputed between France and Great Britain, Spain, territories disputed between. Okay, I guess you see this map. Okay, I hope I have the source for that. Where does this source come from? I'll get you guys the information. Initially focused on trading with the American Indians and searching for mineral deposits, rather than developing plantations through French Louisiana, settlers attempted to develop tobacco and indigo plantations in the 1720s. Okay, guys, I developed hiccups because I'm talking too fast. I hate when I get hiccups. Okay, so let's keep going. Though French Louisiana settlers attempted to develop tobacco and indigo plantations in the 1720s, an alliance of Natchez American Indians and escaped Africans led a rebellion that prevented this development. The Natchez Rebellion did not end slavery in this region, but allowed for more fluid legal definitions and experiences of race, slavery, and social status found in regions without a dominant plantation economy. In Louisiana, sugar plantations would not effectively develop until the end of the 18th century, when the Haitian Revolution ended. Okay. So you see, Natchez American Indians and escaped Africans led a rebellion that prevented this development. So clearly, Do you see natural? Because y'all love to say that those Mongolian Indians enslaved those Africans. What did you read right here? You think these natural American Indians weren't dark skinned like these fucking Africans? Now these $5 Mongoloids we talking about. Why would they form an alliance, a rebellion that prevent this development on a fucking plantation? Clearly. So let's kill all that noise about all these. Oh, the only way you got Indian blood is because you was enslaved by a fucking Indian. Well, we talking about the Indian slave trade, and we talking about how they were on the plantations in the Carolinas. I want to kill that shit, because we're talking about dark skinned people. We ain't talking about no light skinned, white looking people, white skinned people that we see today. We're not talking about that. Let's keep going. In Spanish Florida, settlers purchased enslaved Africans for various forms of labor, but scholars argue that slavery in this context proved less restricted. As a military tactic, the Spanish offered freedom to slaves who escaped from their English rivals, particularly from the nearby English colonies of Carolinas and later Georgia. This led various free African settlements in Florida composed of runaway slaves. These escaped Africans often intermixed with the Seminole American Indians in northern Florida. By the 19th century, tensions between African and American Indian Seminoles in the United States government led to a series of violent conflicts called the Seminole Wars. A plantation economy based on enslaved labor did not fully form in Florida until it became a part of the United States in the early 19th century. Okay, so we do find the source. Low Country Digital History Initiative, a digital history project hosted by the Low Country Digital Library at the College of Charleston. So that's where this information comes from. If you guys want to know where that information comes from, the College of Charleston. Okay, so let's see. So now let's see what this is. Indian slave trade in the American Southeast. Native Americans living in the American Southeast were enslaved through warfare and purchased by European colonists in North America throughout the 17th, 18th, 19th centuries, as well as held in captivity through Spanish organized forced labor systems in Florida, emerging British colonies in Virginia, Carolina, later North and South Carolina, and Georgia imported Native Americans and incorporated them into chattel slavery systems where they intermixed with slaves of African descent. Okay, so we see that. References. So look at these references. Many of them are from University Press, which means that they have went through some peer-reviewed research, or they're credible. You see the University of Tennessee Press. You see let's go through let's read through a couple of them. The Tuscarora War, Indian Settlers in a Fight for the Carolina Colonies. That's University of North Carolina Press. That's a book. Slavery and the Evolution of Cherokee Society, University of Tennessee. Okay, we see that one. The Indian Slave Trade, which is what we just was going through. That's what we went through. Yeah, University Press. So we see. I just wanted to give you guys some information. The Black American is an amalgamation. The Black American was affected by all three slave trades. So any reparations claim on a federal level needs to start at American slavery. You do not need to be going all off, venturing off, and hanging your whole claim on a transatlantic slave trade. That is very stupid. I'm very disappointed that California reparations people did that. These people that's writing that legislation, all that shit, they got it wrong. So now it's time for the grassroots to get involved. The grassroots, we need to sit up here and we need to really get on the ball and start to push this on a federal level. Because we can't have these people that's getting funded by fucking George Soros, getting funded by Rockefellers and shit. We can't have none of that shit. Because they got agendas. I bet you George Soros was the one that was forcing those groups to say that they from the transatlantic slave trade. I bet you that money that they took from them organizations, that's why they had to keep saying that shit. I bet you this is some serious warfare politics going on that us grassroots, we're not privy to. We're not privy to it. And I really think that because it's like, how did you forget all that? How did you skip all over this? It took me 20 minutes to put all this shit together. Granted, the video is longer, but I'm talking about like literally me just doing this research. It took me about 20 fucking minutes. So I'm like, how the fuck did y'all skip over this? How the fuck did y'all skip over this and just focused on that transatlantic slave trade? That wasn't right. All you had to do was say American slavery. And that stops the infighting, because you're going to have Black Americans that don't feel a connection to the transatlantic slave trade, but they got documents talking about the Pacific slave trade and the Indian slave trade. They'll talk about that because that's what they see in their genealogy records. So to stop the fucking infighting, we just need to say American slavery and includes all fucking slave trades that the Black American was ever affected by. That is what needs to happen on a federal level. Anybody come pushing anything other than that, Black American, you need to say, what the fuck? That it will be just as ridiculous of just focusing on the Pacific slave trade. Wouldn't that be just as ridiculous? Oh, the Pacific slave trade. All Black Americans was trading. They came from the boats of the Pacific slave trade. Or just me hanging up the whole thing on the North American Indian slave trade. Or me talking about the EAST ASIATIC Indian slave trade. What if I just said, all of us, we need to focus all on that and only put that in the federal claim and don't put nothing else in there. Don't put transatlantic. That's just as stupid. That's just as ridiculous. So the claim needs to start. The injury is American slavery. The injury of what they have caused to Black American. Okay? So that's what I want you to take away from this. You know, Black American, I hope this is not another 2-hour video. Please tell me it's not. So Black American, remember everything that it is. No! It's 2 hours. Shit. So Black American, remember all this information I told you. Take screenshots of everything. Remember that I come from a good place. I come from a place of love. I mean well in everything that I do. So always remember that, Black American. Remember. So make sure you guys be good. Stop fighting with one another. I hate seeing you guys fighting with one another. I hate it. Okay, and I love you guys so much. Okay, I'm going to talk to you later. Bye.